Each week, I hope this podcast gives you a boost, empowers you to be your best self. And I was so drawn to working with Mighty Meals. Their mission starts with empowering you to live healthier lives. I love that Mighty Meals is a convenient, healthy meal delivery service made with locally sourced ingredients by chefs. If you're in the DMV, DC, Maryland, and Virginia, for those outside the DMV, then head to eatmightymeals.com/yourgoodnews for a special offer of $25 off for purchases of $75 or more. And don't worry, if you're outside of the DMV, they are expanding soon. Hi, and welcome to the Your Good News podcast with me, your host, Katherine Getty. Each Thursday, I'll give you the scoop on the good news coming out of Washington and how you can get involved with this thing called democracy. Welcome back to another episode of the Your Good News podcast. Quiet week in Washington with one of the chambers in recess. So the House is back in their home districts and the Senate is still here. But with that being said, what's happening in Washington circles around flying objects. I did indeed say flying objects. Over the last couple weeks, you've seen, as of earlier this week, 3 flying objects. One, a very famous Chinese spy balloon the size of 3 buses was shot down over the waters of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Then one was one object, they're calling it, over Alaska late last week, so Friday of last week. And then one final over the Yukon area or territory of Canada that was brought down by the North American Aerospace Defense Command, otherwise known as NORAD, which is a joint partnership between Canada and the U.S. The later 2 we have less information on, but I guarantee there will be additional congressional and administration research and scrutiny of this topic from where they're coming from, why they're entering our airspace, what the mission was, what did they obtain. It could be nefarious, could be innocent, more to come on that, but that's kind of what's happening in Washington. So to the heart of the episode, next Monday, February 20th, there is a federal holiday known as President's Day. It's really known as a day to celebrate all U.S. presidents, past and present. So what's the greater history of President's Day, you may ask? The story of President's Day begins all the way back in 1800. Following the death of George Washington in 1799, his February 22nd birthday became a perennial day of remembrance. And while Washington's birthday was an unofficial observance for most of the 1800s, it really wasn't until the 1870s that it became a federal holiday. Senator Stephen Wallace Dorsey of Arkansas was the first to propose the measure, and in 1879, President Rutherford B. Hayes signed it into law. The holiday initially only applied to the District of Columbia, interestingly enough, but in 1885 was expanded to the whole country. At the time, Washington's birthday joined 4 other nationally recognized federal bank holidays or federal holidays. Those were, and you probably are rattling them off in your brain, Christmas Day, New Year's Day, the 4th of July, and Thanksgiving. And it was the first to celebrate the life of an individual American. Martin Luther King Day Jr., signed into law in 1983, was the second. The shift from Washington's birthday to President's Day began in the late 1960s when Congress proposed a measure known as the Uniform Monday Holiday Act. Say that 5 times fast. It feels sort of like a tongue twister. Anyways, it was championed by Senator Robert McClory of Illinois, and the law sought to shift the celebration of several federal holidays from specific dates to a series of predetermined Mondays. And the proposed change was really seen by many as a novel way to celebrate and create more 3-day weekends for the nation's workers. And it was believed that ensuring holidays fell on the same weekday would reduce employee absenteeism. Low-key, when I was researching President's Day in general, because I'm going to be honest, I really just thought we were celebrating George Washington. When I was researching this and understanding the holiday even more, I was astonished that Congress had done something that was really smart. I love a Monday off. I think it's really cool. I think it's easier to understand in our calendars. But that's a little side note. The Uniform Monday Holiday Act was passed in 1968, and officially took effect in 71 following an executive order from President Richard Nixon. Washington's birthday was then shifted from the fixed date of February 22nd to the third Monday of February. Columbus Day, Memorial Day, and Veterans Day were also moved at that time. But as a result of widespread criticism, in 78, Veterans Day was returned to its original date of November 11th. And one last fun fact about, February/President's Day. I thought this was interesting. 4 presidents were born in February: George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Ronald Reagan, and William Henry Harrison. Well, that was a quick primer. So now on Monday, on President's Day, whether you have the day off or not, you know the backstory. Originally a date to honor the first U.S. president, George Washington. Then when Congress decided to move the date to a uniform Monday, it became a way to honor current and past presidents. The more you know. Thank you for joining today's episode of the Your Good News podcast. Like I say, if you haven't already, go ahead, hit subscribe, leave a review, share with someone you know, trying to be the Schoolhouse Rock updated version so you know what holidays are happening, what's happening in Washington, what good is our Congress, our administration, what's happening. Thank you as always for tuning in, and tune in next week to another episode of the Your Good News podcast.